Ladies and gentlemen, everyone around and in between, this is DebateSensei NFALD edition, where we talk about things relevant to competitive Lincoln Douglas debate for the National Forensics Association. We have a second part to our previous episode where we are talking to a couple of some of the most successful debaters in NFALD. We have Nick Wallenburg and Andre Swai. Is it Swai? Yes, I think I said Swai last time, and then I'm like, oh, okay. All right, cool. Thank you.
I use both.
Oh,
it makes no sense. Don't worry about it.
Oh, gotcha. So last episode, I was asking questions, but I wanted to get a little bit more interplay between people in the circuit. So I'm handing over this episode largely to both Justin and Chad to ask questions of these fine individuals. I think I will start by let's hand it over to Justin before his signal drops.
Yeah, we had a few connection issues starting this morning, but
Right.
no, I think that like one interesting thing, and we can kick this to both debaters. NFALD is very different from high school LD and high school policy in a lot of different ways. And I think that the two of you kind of highlight both success in high school and success in college. And I'm really curious as to some of the things or advice you might have for debaters who are making that transition, students who are currently in NFALD that are having a hard time kind of figuring out what's going wrong or why they're not kind of connecting the dots at the college level. And what advice you would give to them kind of making that transition?
It helps going to a program with funding and coaches who are able to like essentially just like allow you to grow and develop. And then whenever that doesn't happen, it just comes down to like watching those high level out rounds, you know, and just like even if you can't have those high level debates, just watching them, you know, that's like the number one thing I write on all my ballots is just like watch UNT, UNL, and WKU and then just emulate them. Like emulate their files, emulate their speaking strategies, emulate their spreading. Like whenever you don't have somebody telling you what to do, just emulate the best.
Yeah. So I kind of think about the high school. I've thought about like the way the high school operates a lot. In my experience, the high school circuit is very bifurcated, right? There are a lot of programs that do very high level, like TOC technical debate. And then there are other programs that focus way more locally. And I think that those are two very different styles of debate. And I give different advice for adaptation for each of them. So for my kids, so when I interact with students, for my kids that like would compete at the TOC, I told them when you get to college, all of the like, or most of the like silly stuff stops working, right? Like you can't kind of keep pulling out your random Sparkback file or make the death good critique and like just like win rounds on I'm faster than you. Like once you get to a certain level, and I think NFA does this particularly, you have to like not only make like new arguments or interesting arguments, but they also have to be like the best arguments and smart arguments. Because somebody like Andre will just be like, no, this is a silly argument and I'm going to answer it as such, and you can't get any traction. And on the other side, I think Andre's advice for those people that are coming from those like more localized high school circuits, it's watching those out rounds that are deep at nationals or deep at the Grand Prix, and trying to figure out kind of like how to emulate those people.
Real quick, the difference between high school LD and college LD, it's not just that one's policy. I mean, it's still value based in high school, right?
Yes. In high school, I mean, it depends on where you are. When I was coaching in Nebraska, it's all still very philosophy value based. People pull out their Kant cards and talk about categorical imperative, and that we do not do that in college NFA. Thank the Lord.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll jump in there because I also had a question about a high school transition and just sort of like making just like basically I wanted to know beyond like debate strategies, what kind of like quality of life strategies did you all sort of discover to help you navigate the emotional burden and the intellectual burden of doing an activity that has a ton of time commitment and travel commitment? Right. You know, like as a coach, we're seeing such an explosion of mental health awareness and also mental health diagnoses. And so, I'm just sort of interested in like hearing about a supposed success story, maybe not a success story from that perspective. I don't know your personal lives that much, but were there any strategies that you developed?
Sure. I guess I can answer this one first, if that's cool, Andre. For me, I think it was kind of twofold. I set a lot of boundaries for myself in terms of times. Like I knew that I had to spend X number of hours on debate every week, and so I scheduled those times. And that's like been very useful for me, even if I like am working in law school now and having not enough time there. I think the bigger thing for mental health is it's like just a fact of competitive debate. You spend a ton of time with your coaches and your team. I think making the effort to find your people on the team, to not like, I know cordon off your time, these are your times you're working on debate, but then go do things with your teammates outside of practice and outside of competitions to like get to know them and be friends with them. And then all of a sudden debate time stops feeling like work time and starts feeling more like fun time, which I think helped me a lot.
I don't think I have like a good answer for this necessarily.
Okay.
I feel like people, I feel like Nick and I are potentially outliers. Nick did give some good advice, but if the question was related to like, how do you do the activity so much and like not get burnt out, and like not have like brain rot from it, it's because like you love it and you're winning. So whenever you love it and you're winning, you don't really have like a desire to like the work-life balance was always off because the work part didn't feel like work,
Got it.
That's at least how I felt about it. I was like, whenever I was in debate mode, I was cutting cards like all the time. I was reorganizing files all the time. So I just feel like it was just like a muscle memory for like 8 years,
Yeah, as Andre always says, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
I've always said that. I quote that.
Yeah. All right. We'll have Andre Swai on the byline for that one, for the credit. Excellent.
So I kind of know the answer from this for Nick, but I'm really curious of this for Andre. Was there a moment in your final round against Sarah that you kind of knew that you had won? Like, is there a moment when you like looked up in the weight and you were like, yes?
There's like one moment. Yeah, I mean, we're both like younger debaters comparatively to everybody else, that neither of us are like incredibly technical. A lot of both of our skills come from being like persuasive people. So neither of us were like fighting on each other's turf per se. So it was essentially just like very like persuasive based. So once you like fuck up ethos wise, it's like game over. And whenever Sarah said like policing is good sometimes, which is like objectively, I think that's an okay argument. You can say it's okay. Like policing as an instant, she just framed it terribly, She just framed it terribly. And in a round against an anti-blackness debater who's just like talking about how anti-blackness ruins the world, she just says like really red-faced, policing is good sometimes, or like something along the lines of that. And it's just like ethos-wise didn't come off well. She's not making like a morally reprehensible argument, but for damn sure I framed it that way, and like it seemed like it was terrible. But I feel like that moment in the round, just whenever I was like, it is never okay to put like, it's just like, oh yeah, it's like you lost, bro. Like I'm sorry.
Can I get a little background on this final round? What year was this? What was a little bit of framing of that?
It was 2021, right? It was the first nationals after COVID.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. It was 2021 nationals after COVID. I was a sophomore. I believe Sarah was either also a sophomore or a junior.
Okay.
Junior, I think.
Yeah, a junior. And it was I was just like the whole framing of the round was, and the whole framing of the entire tournament was like, niggas have never won. A black man has never won. We've had a black man specifically, So Nefertiti Dukes from WKU also won, but like one black person winning doesn't like mean that that like anti-blackness doesn't exist. So the whole thing was essentially like, let's get a black man to win using critical black arguments, you know. And whenever Neff ran, Neff wasn't running like critical anti-blackness strategies. So the whole ethos of the round was like, let's get a black man speaking about black shit to finals and have him win on black arguments. That was the whole framing of the round. So whenever you frame the round through like, we're going to make this a historic moment for black people and for black debaters. And then whenever you say policing is okay sometimes, it just clearly like the judge has to like navigate that, even if it's not like a huge argument on the flow. It's like a ethos moment in the round that you just kind of have to, I assume, consider. And even if it didn't help on the flow, even if like none of the judges probably wrote that in their RFD, literally none of them. It came down to like topicality, but that moment in the round, it's, even if it didn't like have an impact for me, I was like, it turned the fire on for me. And I got to see all my like, people in the chat just be like, ooh, or just like know that like it was a good moment.
So it was an online debate?
Yeah, it was an online debate.
Okay. All right.
I'm really fascinated to hear Nick's answer because I actually did not see this round, I don't think.
Yeah.
So I want to say I was watching Persuasion finals.
I see. It was fun. No, this was definitely a self-serving question by Justin. So conversely to Andre's and Sarah's round, Sam and I are very, very technical debaters, or at least we had that reputation. And so it was like guns a-blazing, go as fast and as clear as you can, right? So Sam read this very big affirmative with a democracy advantage, and then I don't even remember, some kind of tech advantage. And the tech advantage had like 3 impact modules, right? And the democracy advantage is just like a little democracy stops war. The one NC, I read a critique, a topicality argument, and then on the democracy advantage, I read 4 pieces of offense, just like 4 impact turns, and then I answered the other advantage. And in the video, you can see this, which is why Justin asked this question. In the 1AR, so the next speech, Sam gets to the democracy advantage, says, there's no offense here, we're kicking the advantage, and moves on. And you can see my head dart up and look across all 7 judges, and I'm like, okay, this is game over. Because you can't see the judges, but when I looked up, like 4 different people made eye contact with me, gave me the kind of look, and I was like, okay, yeah, that's the strat.
What round was that?
That was the final round of NFA my senior year, so just this last May or April 2023.
In 23. Okay.
And I don't want to defend myself. It's not completely self-serving. I have a point to that question because I think the best debaters have this ability to sense a moment in the round that's a turning point. And I think that young debaters, especially like those trying to figure it out, are like, well, how do I win these close debates? Part of it is knowing that moment, right? When you've turned the debate in a different direction, recognizing that, and then knowing what to do in that moment, right? Like Andre and Nick both had this ability to take those moments and do something with them. And that's more what I'm curious about because like, you know, in the final round, like any little thing can change it, right? And it's those kind of nuances and then being able to pounce on that. So a little bit self-serving, but also, you know, student serving a little bit too.
Oh, I've had a few moments like that, but on both ways though, you know, where I'm like, oh, we got this, or damn it, it's over. Who wants to jump in next?
Yeah, I could jump in there. I'm kind of interested, like, in the difference with preparation between Grand Prix and NFA. Like, was there like a tangible difference in terms of how you prepared for each tournament? Because me and Justin kind of prattled off what we thought, but I'd be interested to know, like, from boots on the ground perspective, what was the difference and how you prepared for it.
Sure. So I guess for me, reputationally, they're two very different tournaments, right? And I'm sure you all have discussed this before, but at the Grand Prix, you typically have very technical judges, people that are very flow oriented, have watched a lot of NFA debates. And at Nationals, it's a little bit more grab bag. Not saying that one's necessarily better than the other. I definitely prefer one more. And so the way that I looked at it, especially my senior year, is I wanted to have all of my like very technical, very like technical flow heavy arguments ready for the Grand Prix so that I could read them at the Grand Prix. That was the prep. I didn't really prep anything else for the Grand Prix. And then in that 3 or 4 weeks from the Grand Prix to Nationals, it's just updating those files, finding one more argument to handle the people who are able to like handle me at the Grand Prix, and then cutting the affirmative that is, let's talk slow for 6 minutes, let's talk persuasively, cutting the disad, cutting the counterplan, to be able to like have a chance in those rounds where judges aren't necessarily flowing as intently or listening to as fast of arguments.
Chad, I'll also let you answer some of this for me as well to see if I'm not just like looking back at my own work burden with like rose-colored glasses.
Mhm.
I think I prep for like every tournament the same. I think that like the prep that I had for ISU is typically the same prep that I have for like Grand Prix or NFA. Obviously, Grand Prix and NFA is going to be a lot more intense, but I prepped the same, and that like shows in the outcomes that I had, you know. Post my sophomore year, my outcomes at nearly every tournament in both years are like virtually the same, you know, like in Grand Prix, my junior year, I made it to semis. We had someone from our team close out to finals. Functionally, we were top 3. I could have made it to finals, or like I was a
Technically, you know.
I won all my ballots. I didn't lose. Okay, I was functionally in finals. Let's like put my name on the plaque, or at least not have you publicly say that I didn't win, that I didn't deserve it. Whatever. I forgot what I was even saying. I prepped the same for every tournament. I got it. I prepped the same for every tournament, which I think was like a decent amount or a lot. It's just like Chad had a really good system at WKU to where we had to prep anyway. And we just had a team culture to where like you prep, you work like dog. Like, what do you like? Why are you not prepping right now? Why are you not cutting this right now? So whenever you just have like a group of elite debaters, like having like Tess, Madeline, Anthony, Alex, having them instill like almost like a religious dogma of prep upon you helps with that. So I'll let Chad answer that as well.
I do have one question about that though, just to leap off. With a strategy that's steeped in like critical anti-blackness arguments, do you get a judge every now and then where you have a different approach? Like I have to imagine that some judge in the back of the room is kind of like, wait, what the hell's going on right now? And like you have to speak to that.
Yeah, so that's why I didn't do as well as I could have, is because I didn't adapt to those judges. I typically just like let them sit through it, you know?
Got it.
There could be some forms of adaptation, and like some rounds I would adapt, you know, like if it was a prelim, I know against Alicia Stout, I ran the same like topical AF last year that Chad and I worked on, which was like, it was like a sheriff elections. It was something about sheriff elections. So it was about police, it was about anti-blackness, it was about prisons. I don't care about that AF. I didn't care about that argument for real. Like, but I would read it in those rounds against like I had like a calm graduate student judge, or like a high school friendly judge, you know? And I was like, oh, this isn't sacrificing my integrity too much. Nobody's watching the debate. It's already an AF that is in line with my values somewhat. So I'll just read it in this prelim round to guarantee me being able to go to out round so I can read the arguments that I actually like. But for the most part, even when I had judges that like weren't sympathetic to my arguments, like Jared Anderson, for example, he like explicitly has just said, I don't like either like, I say your form of debate, but like non-T debate. I'm pretty sure he has in his paradigm, you have to read a plan, you know? And I was like, fuck no. I just and then I would win in front of him by just like winning on their terms. Essentially, whenever you have a judge like that, it helps to just be better than the other debater, because like you win on their terms. Like if you have to, you know, by just like doing the technical aspects right, instead of just reading a counter interp and 3 standards, you're gonna have to read like 5 standards, or just like more standards, make it more of a technical debate. That's how I would answer.
Okay. Cool.
But Chad, did I prep hard? Come on. Dad, do you
I mean, I think like, I would say in general, because like we kind of have like a prep like strategy that's pretty like set in stone. Generally, like every tournament prep is like in terms of like maybe not like the amount of time is the same, but the process like kind of looks the same. But yeah, I mean, and I feel like in particular, you always had a negotiation kind of with yourself about how much you were willing to adapt to judges who weren't receptive to the arguments that you were making. So, you know, I definitely feel like for NFA, there was always that balance that you were trying to sort of keep with being true to what you wanted to talk about and what you wanted to say, but then also wanting to be strategic at the tournament. And so, I mean, I would say like it really wasn't a difference with like the time or the amount. Maybe for Grand Prix, like you seemed a little happier prepping, just because it was like kind of likely that you would get judges who would give you a fair shake pretty much every day.
Because I knew it would pay off. I knew the work would pay off for Grand Prix. And with NFA, I knew going into it, I was like, I already had my final round. Like my final round against Nick at Grand Prix, that's already like, that's probably as good as it was going to get for me. Like I kind of knew that going in. Don't get me wrong. I still thought I was going to win. I still said I was going to win. That's like what I came there to do. But I knew it's NFA. I get judge fucked at NFA. A lot of people do. And it's just like you get judges who don't know critique debate and will just like easily disregard your argument if they can. Like if they can find a spot on the flow to not vote for you, they will gladly not vote for you and pull the trigger in the other direction.
So Nick, is judge adaptation a little bit more central to your strategy?
Yes. I think that judge adaptation has morphed into being like my primary strategy.
Got it.
I think it comes both from the fact that I like to win. And so like judge adaptation makes sense to me. And from coaching high schoolers, I think it gave me a new appreciation for the value of judge adaptation because, you know, I would coach one of my high schoolers. They would make an argument in front of this judge. It's like, okay, we have X person who doesn't love this style of argument. Let's tweak it this way. See if we can win that ballot, right? And then not only would my kid come back and say, oh yeah, I won that debate and the judge liked it. Then the judge would come up to me in like the coach's lounge and say, hey, I really appreciated that Joel read this argument instead of that argument. I thought it was really like intellectually stimulating. Thanks for encouraging him to do that. And I think that gave me a new perspective that's like, if I want these people to give me ballots and speaker points, I have to like give them what they want because ultimately everybody just wants to like do like, everybody has their own idea of what debate should be. Some of them are wrong. But it's not my job as a debater to tell them they're wrong every time.
Yeah. I feel like I would also say like, I feel like it helps to win as a sophomore with that process. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you're like making an argument that I would like say is like axiomatic in terms of like it creating sort of like very immediate impressions on judges. Some judges are like, wow, I'm so on board immediately. And some are like, read plan, dude. And you're kind of negotiating like, how much do I adapt? I feel like it's a lot easier to make the choice to say, I'm just not gonna very much. If like you already won a championship as a sophomore, and then everything else kind of feels like gravy from that point. I think it might have been like a slightly different attitude. Okay. If like, let's say you've lost that final round, sophomore year, and like going into like senior year, it was like, okay, if we don't win NFA, if we don't adapt in this octo round, if we don't read a plan in this debate, like it's over and there was never a title. I think
that would have changed everything.
Yeah, I think it would have created a different kind of like a different move.
I think so. The quarterfinal round against Andre is what drove Nick and I for the following 2 years.
That's true.
Yeah,
like it was the round we talked about consistently.
I think there's another interesting thing about what you said, Chad, about it helps you win as a sophomore. And I know this isn't what you meant, but I think it's another interesting dynamic, which is, at least for me, the way that I thought, if I adapt more my freshman and sophomore year and win more debates, then judges are more likely to come with me my junior and senior years as I kind of push against them a little bit. So for example, Joe Packer hated my critical affirmative my freshman year and my sophomore year and refused to vote for it. And by my senior year, I had adapted to Packer enough times that I read the Zemblus affirmative. I was like, Packer, I know you hate this, but I want your feedback on it. And he voted for it. He was like, yes, I hate this, but you won the debate, and I respect that, right? And I think that kind of in that same point, once you get the credibility of like, I can win debates, I can win tournaments, it makes it a little easier to kind of push back on like rote adaptation.
Okay.
And I think that may be something that a lot of younger debaters in NFA-LD struggle with, which is the like, I was able in high school to bring judges along with my arguments consistently. And these judges just aren't buying my stuff. And part of it is like, I have to coach my first and second years. Like, you don't have any credibility with these people. They don't know who you are. They don't trust your argument style. They don't believe that you're making arguments that are in line with your values. Like, one of the things about Andre that I think really developed over Andre's junior and senior years was like, I think that judges just trusted that like Andre's arguments were going to be good, authentic, engaging. Andre wasn't going to like not argue with the other person's perspective throughout the debate. And they gave both Andre and Nick a little bit more lead than they would have given like a first-year debater making the same set of arguments. Of like, we trust that they're going to do a good job here. And I think that's 100% true that like, but younger debaters, I think they just try to like bang their head against the wall a lot. And I'm like, why won't these judges vote for my Baudrillard app? And it's like, well, they don't know your Baudrillard app. They probably haven't ever judged you reading Baudrillard before. So,
no.
Nick, I have a question for you potentially.
Yeah. All right.
So an experience that I would come across post sophomore year, and it sucks. And I know that you had to experience this too, even without like winning a title early on.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah, trust me, you're welcome. You needed it, you know? If you would have won as a sophomore, I would have hated you so bad. Like, you winning as a sophomore, I feel like is just as bad as me winning as a sophomore, okay?
That's true, yeah.
So, you know how whenever you would just go into rounds and they would just beat themselves? Like, they would just, from the jump, like from the moment the round starts, just start like kissing ass and just like fawning and just like being way too overtly like, I'm gonna lose this, you're so good. How would you navigate that? Did it make debate, like, obviously it made it less fun, but just like, if you could tell me about like an experience to where that happened and you're just like, God, this is not fun, this feels weird, like.
Yes, I have had that experience as well, and it's exceedingly uncomfortable. That's how I always feel. Is that because like you said, you walk into a room and somebody's like, "Oh, I watched this round at this tournament. You're so good. This isn't even going to be a debate. I'm just here to have fun. I'm here to learn." And you're like, "Please don't say that, right?" And I think it's hard to respond to that because, like, on the one hand, you're kind of like, "Well, yeah, I didn't prep a whole lot for this round." But on the other hand, it almost feels like you have to like boost them up, right? Like I resorted to like, well, no, when we debated at this tournament, you were really good, and I feel like you're getting a lot better. I think that like this will be a good debate. Like I'm excited to debate you, right? And I don't know that there's much else that I could do. I don't know how did you handle that, or like what was your kind of approach?
Uncomfortable, you know?
Yeah.
And I would just be like, also I would tell them to stop. I would tell them to like stand up for themselves and to like. I was like, hey, this is like everyone's in the room right now and like vibes. I genuinely believe, especially for NFA, sadly, vibes play like 30% of a role with like 30% of the pool, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So if you maybe that's a very harsh way of saying it. And it may be diminutive, but I feel like that's for some judges. Yes. For some judges, they'll be more likely. What were you going to say, Nick?
Oh, no, I think that's right. And that's why, like, I've had high school students that have like gone and done NFA at Nebraska, and I have told them point blank, it's like those people that have that like reputation as being great debaters, we aren't that good, right? Like the distinction between the top of the pool and the middle of the pool is not nearly as big as people seem to think it is. And I think if you go into a round with the perspective that it's a huge gap, you're going to lose. Versus if you go into the round of like, well, actually, this can be close. It often will be.
It's just a matter of like whenever the judge is hearing the other debater wave a white flag before the round began. Me personally, I'd clock out. I'd clock out and go for the easy. I'd go for the easy dub. They're like, oh, I know Andre's gonna win. This person knows Andre's gonna win. Let's just like.
That Andre said he won. It's good.
I'm doing marginal attention, and I will vote on the argument that I hear in the 2AR that the 2NR clearly said, yeah, I guess they're winning. So technically they are winning that. I will give them that. And it's just like I had one to where I went in, and I'm not even kidding. They're like, I followed you on Twitter since I was like a freshman in high school, or since I was like,
wow.
Since like you were in Missouri. I remember whenever you won the Missouri championship. And then I was just like,
Twitter's not that good though, so it's kind of
what'd you say, Chad?
Huh? Nothing.
What'd you say?
It's not that good. I said it's not that good.
Whatever.
Your Twitter. That's all.
And then I still don't care. And then I had them like during cross. This was so bad. After everything I'd say, they'd be like, "That's a fucking stellar answer, man." That's and dude, I'm not. And then they were like, "That's fire, dude." Fucking fire. He would say that's fire in response to my cross-ex quit. He was like essentially just being like, it's just an honor to see a master at work right now.
Oh man.
So, talking to you?
Yeah, to me, bro. To me, yeah. He was just like he was essentially just like, oh, such a fire answer, you know? And he was just like, whenever I would ask questions in cross, he'd be like, dude, you're right, dude. I don't have a good answer. Yeah, dude. So I guess if any NFA competitors are listening to this, don't let Zach Jones or Alicia Stout or don't let these people bully you in debate. Don't
bully Zach Jones.
Yeah.
No. Bully them. That's what I'm trying to say. Bully the best debaters.
Yeah.
You know, go into the round, punch them in the fucking mouth. You know.
Yeah. With your arguments.
Please don't hit anyone.
Yes.
Yeah. With your arguments, you know, go in there, get blood. You know, you're already gonna lose.
Yeah.
Fight, go down swinging. You know.
Yeah.
Like,
I think that's true.
I also want to push back a little bit against what Nick said. I do think that there is a giant separation between the top of the pool and the middle of the pool. I think that there's like a fairly large separation between like a debater who's been in NFA for like 2-3 years. And I don't know. I just feel like the difference between Nick and the rest of the pool in a lot of ways. Actually, I guess you're right. Now that I think about it, now that I think about like the other schools that weren't like maybe in like the top 4. Yeah, I guess you're right. I just have a hard time calling certain people in the middle. I kind of think of this as like one group of like 10 to 15, you know?
Yeah. And you can conceptualize it whichever way you want. I think my point was more that it's like a state of mind. Is you have to convince yourself that the person you're debating really is not much better than you.
For sure.
Yeah. So that state of mind or the vibe that you're talking about, it was definitely alive in Parley debate. My partner won nationals the year before. So whenever I'm walking in the round with her, you know, people are freaking quaking in their boots, you know what I mean? And so I got that feeling a lot. And so, and I rode that wave for damn sure. You know, hell yeah, whatever. You're going to hand it to me.
For Nick, you know, that he had to like fight and claw for 4 years to get a good night's sleep, you know? Like I didn't recover. I thought I was going to win NSDA for 2 years. I thought I was going to be an NSDA champion in either oratory or policy. I could have been, okay? Back in my day, I was a varsity athlete. Don't fucking make that face, Chad. You don't know shit about me in high school. By the way, Jared.
I saw you debate as a freshman, so I knew you're not going to win policy debate.
Me as a freshman coming from Missouri, listen, I adapted in less than 14 months. By 14 months in the activity, I was in the bottom half of the good people in the pool. But yeah,
I've got an interesting question. It kind of plays off a little bit this for both of y'all. I mean, both of you were very, very good and persuasive speakers in the activity. And I think that like speaker points is one of those weird kind of like amalgamous things that people will give you advice on, like how to get better speaker points or how to be a better speaker in debate or what it takes to get a 30. I'm curious, like your perspective on it, having won a national championship, having won speaker, like, is there a secret sauce? Is it something you shouldn't even be worried about? What is your perspective on speaker points in relation to like competitive success?
we're national champions. We don't like worry about speaker points. They come. You know? Speaker awards come with the nature of being a good debater. You know, like I think, yeah. I don't know how to answer. I didn't really ever care about speaker. Well, I cared about them. Don't get that twisted. I loved whenever I got first speaker, you know, but I was never like, we're already good debaters, so it's hard to like care about speaker points.
And I think I kind of the same sentiment, which is that my speaker points just kind of naturally went up over my 4 years. I think that's kind of a function of winning more debates. And figuring out who I'm debating and what my judges are a little bit better, and my judges getting to know me, which helps. But yeah, it's like so back of mind. It's not whatever's going to win you the debate is also going to get you higher speaker points as a general rule. Maybe you don't pull the trigger on like your random A-spec argument because you think it'll give you a differential of speaker point. But the only reason they mattered for me was like walkovers and outrounds. My first tournament, I broke as the 5 seed, and Greg walked over me, and then promptly lost his debate, and I was pissed. And that was like the only thing that speaker points mattered for me, was like not getting walked over when I went 4-2.
Okay.
I feel like it's also like they not taken the wrong way. I don't think either one of you is a good person to talk about like how to work on speaker points, because you're both like very naturally gifted speakers.
That's probably true.
Like I've definitely had like debaters who like had to work on being a better speaker. And like getting better speaker points and like coming across like more persuasive and like you both have what I would call like debate riz, if that makes sense. And like both, even like Andre talks about his like freshman, even like as a freshman and he wasn't like winning a million debates, like he was still getting great speaker points because like he's just like a very good speaker and like talented debater. And same for Nick. I remember judging him as a freshman, and even if I was like, I'm tired of seeing this tea, like it was still like a good speech. That makes sense.
All right. Well, I think there's a lot of really good information that helps fourth year debaters as well as people just getting into the activity that was discussed here. So I want to thank everyone so much for participating in it, and I'm glad that I was let the sort of fireworks fly and just stand back as a observer on this one. So thank you all so much for being here, and we'll be back in the future talking more about NFA LD related stuff. Thank you all.
Awesome. Thanks, Jared.
Yeah, thanks, Jared.
Take it easy.